Welcome to Heart Change You live stream. We've been taking this opportunity on Tuesdays to really partner with other ministries and to get a chance to reach out to the others. And partially because of that, today we're not live. We couldn't make it work out on our live stream time slot. But we have with us today David Whitlock. It's so great to have you with us.
Thank you, Pastor David. I'm glad to be here.
We've had fun getting to know each other over the last month and beginning to connect. You're with the Dream Center out of Great Bend.
Yes, sir.
Tell us just a little bit basically about the Dream Center.
The Central Kansas Dream Center was started approximately 11, 12 years ago. We reach hurting souls. Initially, when it was opened, it was a life-giving center for women to come in, for men to come in. Over the years, it has had a men's and women's 9-month program. We also, for a period of time, had a teen girls program. And I'm very excited to let you know that we have a new sonogram machine, which we're going to be using for our Moment of Grace pregnancy office. We'll be offering free sonograms and looking to, as with all of that, save lives.
It really is exciting. It actually started as a high school, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? It was an old school building that you guys managed to get a hold of. And I'm impressed. It really is a full-time community center in terms of you still have the soup kitchen going. There's a second-hand store there that makes things available for people, clothes and different things that are needed there. You've actually worked with different agencies in the community to schedule and to be a resource center. Went through a period of, let's just say, reorganization recently. We'll say it that way.
Yes.
where kind of in a restart mode right now, and that's where you and I met and talked, and you're wondering about forging a partnership because especially in the recovery ministry, and this becomes huge. Many times you need to change people, and what's the second P?
Yes.
Places and things. And so in order to change people and places, many times it really is helpful to say, how about if we move this person out of this town, and how about if we have a partnering organization?
Absolutely.
And I think you initially approached us perhaps more on that basis, where can you send us some guys that it would be good for them to get out of McPherson, and we'll send you some guys that'll be good to get out of Great Bend. And so we actually start with this whole idea of partnership between the two organizations.
Yeah, I was really, one of your previous students who is still involved was a previous friend of mine in our old lives.
A previous friend?
Yes. Well, he is a dear friend.
He's a dear friend.
He's a brother now.
He's better now than he was before.
Absolutely.
So,
we both are. I found out through Big Facebook that about 3 years before I came to the program in Great Bend, he had went through your program here. And I just thought, when I came up for your home church, I thought it was amazing that what God had done in 27 years, that we were both there together, praise and worship and prayer, around a large group of like-minded men and women wanting to change their lives, and after so many bad choices, that we were able to, worship and share together what God had done in our lives. I did call because some of my students that I recently had were from the Great Bend area, and even though we have them separated from the soup kitchen when we have lunch, and we try to keep everything separate, somehow plans were made and they decided to leave the program. And it honestly broke down to being that they were still in their playground. They were still in their backyard, even though they were living in our building. And so that's when it struck me, and we just need to look at some other things. And Jason had told me, you should talk to Pastor David. And I believe it's one of our first conversations. You say, I believe I have some guys that would benefit from just not being here where they live. And I wholeheartedly believe that for sure.
It's been fun jumping in. Obviously, I came your direction, sat down with you and Mike, and I would have loved if he could have been here with us today, but we couldn't make it work out in terms of the schedules. And I'm relatively certain we will have another go around, maybe in about a month or sometime or another. But we really wanted to accelerate this partnership, partially because you're scheduled to reopen here in just a few weeks, and really wanted to be able to get the story out and tell people about what's happening. Give us a little bit more about the specific direction over the next 30, 45 days that is kind of, again, step one in a process.
Right. So, as you mentioned, when COVID hit here a few years ago, things really, we just took a hit, is the only way to put it. People weren't going out as much. We were serving approximately 55 meals a day. That reduced a little bit. I just heard the total amount of the year was a lot of meals. But with COVID, it just changed our spectrum for a little while. I've been back at the Dream Center approximately 4 or 5 months, and with meeting with the board and Mike, the new director, we just knew what we kept hearing was we had to start fresh. We had to break it down to the foundation. And in order to do that, there was a lot of changes. We've spent a lot of time in prayer, and I just mentioned it the other day that we literally have one block in place, one brick, and we're going to set the mortar, and we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to put another block in place. Rather than, and you helped with this, with the house, my hopes are, our plans in the next few weeks, to look at my list of reservations that I have, as I've already spoken with several people, and open up the dream house, and we're going to have that transitional house on campus. It's literally on our property, and I'm really looking forward to that because some of the previous students, they had a new baby at home. Their wives weren't able to work, and they simply couldn't enter a 9-month program, but this man knew he needed a program. He needed accountability. He wanted help to learn how to manage money. He wanted to be a responsible man in the community, but it wasn't going to work because your family has to eat. So I'm just so excited that things turned out that way, that we can use that 5-bedroom house.
And basically, to explain that, the Dream Center was in a direction to where, hey, you're engaged in the program, and you're completely engaged, and so your comment about being able to work that doesn't work out. So you're looking at restarting with more of a halfway house, where they're able to be engaged in some kind of a class, some kind of instruction during the day.
Absolutely.
Actually, not during the daytime. They'll probably be working, but at least at a point during the day, they would be engaged with something. They would be able to get back into a job. And that's the easiest transition point.
Right.
Now, let me just kind of talk about your title. You are the men's program manager.
Right.
And so you'll be focusing on that. And then you're also the classroom instructor.
Right.
So with this first program, you won't be doing a lot of that instructing. It won't look quite what you hope to be, say, 3 months out or 6 months out. That'll develop as time goes on. But you're starting with more of what I would simply call a halfway house that's going to be associated that you'll be instructing.
Yes, I just spoke with someone that is interested in the house. He actually tried the program, and it just wasn't going to work for him. But I made sure he knew we were not abandoning our 9-month in-house program. That's set up. It's ready to go. The classroom's been remodeled because there's a need there. But what we noticed over this last few months was that there's more of a need for them to be able to work. And as you said, that transition point was more applicable for their situations. One of the biggest things that grasped me when we first met, I think we were just exactly on the same page, was I want to help men, but it has to be applicable. And I can tell them that the Holy Spirit changed me and that Jesus is guiding me. And then I can tell them to stay connected, see you Sunday. And that's just what's been lacking. And so when we talked after I'd spent several hours with you, I saw like you're doing the applicable part, and it's biblical based, and that's the key.
I think that's one of the things I love about our program and what I do, what we do. When people come through here, many times they've been through multiple programs, and I'll ask them that question, so why do you do what you do? What do you need to change? And the vast majority of the time, they really have almost no answer. And I think that's what you're talking about. You're talking about getting that thing broken down, helping them see what's going on, asking them questions. What will it take for you do something different to actually do things
Yes.
better. And it's going to be fun working together with you
Yeah.
in that role. I do feel like going forward that we're getting things in place here more and more to where I can have more freedom to help
Sure.
programs like yours and come alongside from time to time and just sit down with people and help out with some of those kinds of things.
Yeah, I've noticed, I've only been walking this walk for a short 4 years, but what I've noticed, and I think it's across the board, and I think it's fully unintentional, but people tend to get a narrow focus on their ministry. And I think I first noticed it when I was teaching the second graders, and then they switched me to the fourth graders, and it was like I had a little wobble. But then once I was comfortable and I taught the fourth graders for a couple of years, like I wasn't paying attention to the youth group. I was in the Wednesday night men's group, but I wasn't involved. And I was like, this seems odd. And I'd ask Pastor, I was like, well, how come the kids in our youth group going to high school with the other kids in the other churches that have youth groups, why aren't we doing some big thing where we're together? We have a single focus. I don't understand why we can't bring it together. And so when you offered to partner with us, I just knew that, that's where it needed to go. We need that direction to help each other to get different perspectives. That's one of my favorite words.
Well, where things really hit the road in partnership. And so this, it's kind of like, okay, this will challenge me. It'll challenge our organization because frankly, just like any other ministry, we struggle.
Sure.
We do not have this overabundance of funds.
Right.
But at the same time, one of the things that I know that's incredibly important, if we really are going to stand with you, we want to make it available to the people who are a part of our ministry and who are listening to actually come alongside and to support you guys, especially during this period of restart. In the last year, you really got hit hard. I don't remember the exact number, but I remember it was over $150,000 that
that's the number.
You got hit with a roof bill.
Yes, that school, and actually it was a middle school. It's a 3-story brick school built in the late 1800s, and the rubber roof needed completely redone. We had done renovations on the top floor. I showed you several of the apartments, and that caused damage, so that had to be redone again. But that roof, it was a big hit. And I just have to say, the community came together. Like the Lord showed up and things were taken care of, but that took our cushion away. And when that happened, it shakes you. You have to wonder, okay, where am I standing? I believe anchor point is a very good word.
Yeah, that's one of our videos.
Yes,
some of our
sir.
listeners would know, and some of them don't know. But we've got an entire video in the starter pack that we call Anchor Point, and getting back to that solid place that you're standing in Christ. And obviously, you've checked out some of our material at that point, and
Yes,
so you've gone there. What that did between that and obviously losing momentum in the program and being at that point, again, COVID hit everybody, being at a point of stepping back, staff turnover, restart.
Yes.
You're in a place where, wow, the next 6 months look really tough. And so you're trying to get it all figured out, get people put back together. And of course, we're wanting to stand with you in that.
And we appreciate that. Mike was looking forward to being here, and I told him I knew it was going to happen again, so he will be ready for that. I was taking notes the other morning. I call it my morning meds, and the question the Lord gave me was, can I walk out this walk in faith without difficulties? And it's a resounding no. For us and the ministry, that difficulty is something that we have to walk through in faith. And us driving over here, us connecting, you coming to see us. As you said, there's a challenge, and through is the only way. I've just learned that through is the only way. My great aunt used to say he had to go through the lion's den. He had to go through the fiery furnace, to go through the belly of the whale. And so we're looking forward to it, as tough as it may be.
There's another ministry in town that we've connected with a lot, and the ministry leader, early on, we were dealing with some difficult issues, and I just kind of made the offhanded comment to him. I said, ministry is messy a lot of the time.
Yes, that's good.
And he has quoted that back to me
good.
over and over again. It's like, ministry is messy.
Yes, sir.
And he talked about, hey, that was inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think about that, but especially when you're working with broken people, you know, and again, I don't even like the term necessarily, but but you're dealing with people who've been through a lot of struggles. You've got addiction, you've got different things that you're dealing with. To expect that to come out in a linear, straight line fashion that is not up, down, jagged, sideways, backwards, inside out, and everything else, it's just foolish.
Yes.
It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I mean, that's just what it looks like, and so you're dealing with that certainly with individuals, but you'll be dealing with that as an organization over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it takes. I can remember I had a friend of mine that was mentoring that at one point we were kind of at a crossroads to where I had more on my plate than I could ever handle, and he said, okay. And it was specifically about Omega, and it was like, well, what would it take for you to really get it on a solid footing to where you could back out if that's what you chose to do? At the time, I think I had said, well, it'd take at least 5 years. That was 13, 14, 15 years ago.
Wow, right on, yeah.
I mean, I'm how many years in, and I'm still like, well, it would be much better off if I were to be suddenly pulled out of it, but I don't know that we're still there where I would be comfortable.
When you were speaking of that, I myself and Mike both went through this program. And I believe that's pretty unique that the director and the manager of the men's program, and we actually have staff that's waiting to come back when this ball is really rolling, that we're students. And that's just so powerful that I won't be asking my students to do anything that I haven't done. You know, uncovering those wounds for healing is painful, but it's absolutely necessary. So I just hope that inspires and lets them know, hey, look, oh wow, oh you did this, you went to a rehabs and didn't make it, and I can say, yeah, absolutely.
I've really been directing the conversation so far. I don't know if this will be easier or harder, but going to throw it much more wide open for you right now. What would you like our listeners to know or about you or about the program?
Well, the first time I was hearing something, I didn't know that it was the Holy Spirit. I didn't know the role of the Holy Spirit back in 2000 when I got saved. There were 17 years of me running again, but I'd spent some time with the Lord, reading the Bible and seeking. I just didn't know that it was coming from the Holy Spirit. But what I kept hearing was embrace that which is uncomfortable. And that's huge now that I look back and I think about it. I graduated 9 rehabilitation centers over the past 30 years. Successfully, according to the world and the little certificate that says I did everything I needed to do. And that embracing, which is uncomfortable, was when I learned, well, it wasn't until the Dream Center that I learned I had wounds and things that happened to me as a child that I carried as an adult, and it guided my reactions. But I didn't know that. I didn't understand it wasn't my fault. I didn't understand that I was a child. I didn't understand that damage I received then would affect me as an adult. I just blamed myself because now I'm an adult. I can't do it right. I still think this way. I still react in anger. And that's a secondary reaction, you know. I get caught a lot. I say, well, I feel like, and then I stop because I can't trust my feelings. My feelings always change. Feelings do change. Now, they are of the Lord, but I have to be very aware of my emotions or my feelings.
It's interesting because you're right in the ballpark of where we've done a lot of ministry lately.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, we're in the middle of a an Overcoming Trauma series.
Oh, wow.
And that trauma series really does talk about those kinds of things that are inside of you. And so when the torment comes from the outside, it attacks, it awakens what's on the inside. And at some point, you simply don't have what you need to overcome. And so identifying those, we've got a video coming out that's going to talk about file drawers, I call them, where you've accumulated all of that stuff inside of you.
I will definitely watch that.
Again, we have we're getting ready to release another entire series that I think is helpful in a lot of the specific areas that you're talking about. Specifically, if someone wants to partner with you, just be a little bit more specific in terms of the Dream Center. We can put some information up about the Dream Center and how to get a hold of you, but just talk to us that at a very practical level.
So we, with the turnover we've had, we have our website that we want to do a lot of work to, but it's very ready. So you can go to Central Kansas Dream Center, and there is a donations button where you're able to donate. We need funds. We constantly are feeding the homeless, those that are in need. And then it also has just a list of the short staff that we have there and what our plans are for the future. And we need people to help. We have on Sunday evenings, every Sunday evening, there's another church from the community that comes in and serves meals. And we were sitting there talking, and these ladies had been coming there for years. Well before I was ever there. And the one lady was in charge of the outreach, and she said she was really hurt that she hadn't received a call back from us. Well, Mike and myself, are brand new in our positions, and we just looked at her and says, well, we just didn't have any idea. So our phone number is there. We love phone calls and questions. We have somebody that's volunteering, also that's helping us with the office paperwork and trying to get Mike and I informed with what we need to, because there's a lot of people that want to help, but they're just not sure how.
And that's one of the tragedies. I don't know, that's probably a little bit overstating, but you've had almost a clean break in terms of staffing, and so the continuity hit a point where it broke. And so some of the people in the community who should be really appreciated and known and communicated with, it's like you don't necessarily have the information that you need to do that right now. And so, again, it is in a restart phase, and you're working at that, and encourage people in the community to call and to say, hey, I'm here. I've done this in the past. I mean, that's something that you don't necessarily know, and you're not meaning to leave people out, but it actually...
It just happens.
It just happens.
It is. I mean, it is a tragedy. We both just looked at this lady, and she is in charge of large churches outreach, and she says, "Well, we used to buy the to-go containers, boxes and boxes of to-go containers." We said, "Well, we've changed what we do now. We do give to-goes, but the people bring in their own Tupperware that's clean. We give them to-goes." I says, "But we could use paper plates and plasticware." And that following Monday, I met her at the door, and she brought us cases of this, just because she didn't know and we didn't know. And so also with the volunteers, I would urge everyone or encourage them, give us a call. If you can come and help on a Saturday afternoon, there are things we need done. I know Mike actually spent 8 hours this past couple of days mowing our property.
And he would love to have somebody.
He would love to have someone to come and help do a little landscaping.
Job. Yes.
We have a few flower beds that aren't being utilized. At one point, we had peppers, hot peppers, tomatoes that we would grow. If there's things you're doing at your house to take care of your home, we need help with that where we're at, because our home almost takes up a full city block. And the three of us on staff can only do so much.
That there is one thing. I mean, you mentioned the grace
moment of grace.
Yes, the moment of grace.
Yes.
One of the things that really does impress me as I was looking at that, your facility has the ability to house so many different kinds of things, different possibilities of ministries, and over the next few years, those kind of things will come together. You also have historically. You have a great series of connections with different churches, people in the community. So really just remobilizing all of that, getting that back in a good flow. things could come together quickly or not.
Right.
And part of that is take a deep breath, do one thing well at a time. After you do one thing, then put the next one in play. And it's good to be able to stay in that place of patience and start. And you've already said, hey, we're starting with basically the equivalent of a halfway house, which you are calling
The dream house.
the dream house.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. So that we have that. And then from there, it will logically flow
Yeah.
to where some of those people will slide into more of a teaching-centered program where they're really jumping in on that 9-month program and getting the core classes and the diagnosis, I call it, or some of the other pieces. And again, we're looking at working together in all kinds of areas in that way.
Yeah. I would like to add, and I'm glad you brought it up again. So we had our new manager who is going to be over the Moment of Grace. They got together. They had their first meeting since this relaunching. They made a phone call, and they got a brand new sonogram machine donated.
Wow.
Praise the Lord. Amazing
great.
that quick. The next day, Mike, actually, we posted it on our Facebook page. What is it? Salvation Army. The lady who's in charge of that outreach is going to use one of our offices because we have a little collection of 6 offices just inside the door, and she's going to use that 2 days a week or 1 day a week, just to have a presence, just to have a centering of ministries. The building, you've been there. It's a very large establishment. We're also looking forward to possibly DCF coming in and might just be once a month, but being there to fill out paperwork and such for food stamps or for assistance in bills and stuff like that. So we can see the ripples starting to move already. We've been asked to visit at a few churches for little 15-minute promotions just to let them know what we're doing. And, it only takes a few people to hear a few things and then tell a few people. And
Again, great facility, downtown, really a very diverse mindset in terms of how we can serve the community. What else would you like to tell our listeners or whoever you can get to listen as you pass it on?
Right. I just have to tell you that hope is huge. I was actually touched and able to go to the elementary school here last month, and they asked me to speak. And as I was there, I realized that 3 years ago, while I was in the program, I was asked to go speak at Drug Awareness Week at this elementary school.
Wow.
And as I got there, the counselor was still there, and she looked and she says, "Oh, wow. It is so wonderful that you're still involved and that you could be back here again." And the following week, I got a thank you card from her. And I guess what I want everybody to realize is that through some of that uncomfortable, through those steps of faith, amazing changes will happen in your heart and in your mind, and it'll be seen and it'll be for everyone that you come in contact with.
It's a neat story. It's your story is a neat story. We could have just taken and done the entire series on that, but obviously we're highlighting the ministry and wanting to give you a tool, something that you can point people to and say, hey, this is our story. And again, we want to partner with you. We want to support you in any way that we can.
Yes, sir.
And so, man, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor, yes.
Being a part of it. And again, thank you for joining us on this live stream. Like it, pass it on, especially this one. It's got a niche. It's got this group of people that really can be interested, should be interested. So let's get it passed around where people can hear the story and hear about the restart. We want to see that Dream Center, the Central Kansas Dream Center.
That's correct.
Be built up and take off again. And again, thank you for joining us on Heart Change You live stream. We hope we will be back on Friday to continue our 3-part series that we're doing on trauma, overcoming trauma. And we will also see you then next Tuesday as well. So thank you for joining us.